and you're a gym owner, come and hang out for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and we'll give you some tips to grow your gym. I'm Chris Cooper. I own Two Brain Business. My gym turned 20 last month, and I've been a coach for 29 years. So today, mostly what we're going to do is just talk about like mistakes that I've made, and then how to actually grow your gym too. So where are you guys from?
Denmark.
Right on?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Well, I was just saying to Polly that we love talking to European audiences even more than American right now. So maybe that's not something that goes on the video reel though, you know? So what I want to talk about today basically is just like the common problems that knock gym owners out of business and why it's so important to overcome them, how we can use systems like the on the whiteboard and just numbers to actually make change. And then like, you know, whatever questions you guys have, we'll go into that too. Is that cool? Yeah, that's good? Yeah, all right. So the first thing is, my worst years as a gym owner were probably around year 3. And that's where most gyms actually go out of business, because that's when they're signing their second lease and they have to decide, is this worth it? The biggest mistake that I made, and a lot of gym owners make that we hear, is what we call the technician's curse. So they open up a gym and they hear like, hey, if you're a great coach, you're gonna have a successful gym. And that's not actually the case. You have to be a good business owner, not just a good coach. And that's the first mistake that almost put me out of business. The second mistake was that I thought that getting people results was probably gonna be enough to like get new clients. And that's also a myth. If you just get results but don't talk about it, if you don't know how to market, you're gonna be out of business anyway. So that's the second problem that we face with a lot of gym owners. The third is that a lot of gym owners don't know how to sell. So if somebody walked up to you guys here and said, how do I sign up for my gym? Good morning, guys. Would you be comfortable selling them a gym membership? Nobody? No, yeah. That's totally common. We're gonna talk a little bit about that. And then the fourth thing is that you need a coach. Like just as our clients come to us for coaching, the reason that Two Brain exists and why we have 1,000 gyms around the world is because people come to us for business coaching. We do the exact same thing that you guys do in your gyms too. So the first story that I want to talk to you guys about is what almost drove me out of business. Good morning. Most gym owners don't go out of business because they lose their passion or because they just like get fed up, you know, with all the software they got to buy, right? Or you know, all the staff they got to manage. They run out of business because they run out of hope. And they see themselves working and working and working, and for a year or two, like that's cool. They can work a 16-hour day. But after a while, they start to realize, like, I didn't see my kids get up this morning, and I'm not gonna see them go to bed again tonight. That was me. And then they kind of look into the future and they say, I'm grinding as hard as I can, but nothing's changing, and I don't see how anything's gonna change. And for me, that happened around 2008. Go ahead, man, you can sit down. Oh, you just me? All right, good. He's a social guy. So, you know, typically what happens is they reach this point 3 to 5 years in where they're working hard, they're not sure the gym is super sustainable, they're missing their kids, and they look out into the future and they think like, I'm gonna be doing this exact same thing when I'm 50 and nothing's gonna change. And Gary and I were just talking about a guy this morning, a 50-year-old personal trainer who still coaches people one-on-one like 10 hours a day, and that's just how it's going to be for the rest of his life. He won't try anything else. And that was me, but I was 30. Do you guys do personal training, or is it more group? More group? Cool. That's cool. We're going to talk a lot about that today too, because the same thing can happen like at the other end of the spectrum, where it's all you're doing is group training and you miss out on like a higher value clientele too. That's very common. So the myth that I was falling for, and maybe you guys have too back then, was if I'm just like the best coach in town, I'm gonna have the best business. And part of this was just fear. Like I thought, okay, I'm gonna take all the business from all the other gyms in town and that's gonna make mine more successful. And part of it was just ego. Like I thought, okay, if I have all these certifications and I'm getting the best results, then everybody's gonna come to me and no other gym. But that didn't happen. And other gyms were actually doing better than me and they weren't getting anybody any results. So I had to get over that. The way that I got over that was I just found a mentor and he basically talked me around and I started blogging about it in 2008. The next big problem that a lot of gyms have is lack of marketing. And most of the reason that people contact us or they come to these talks is they want to hear more about marketing. So is that what you guys want to hear about, marketing? Getting more leads? Yeah? what's the biggest problem in your gym right now? Is it marketing, or is it keeping people, or is it results, or what? Really? Okay, yeah, that's great to hear, actually, guys. Keeping people, that's awesome.
Marketing probably.
Both marketing probably, yeah. What do you think the biggest problem in your? I know you're a member of your gym, but turnover. That's awesome. How about you, man? Marketing? More marketing? Starting over? Wow. Yep. Very cool. Okay, I'd love to talk about that a little bit more today. That's happening quite a bit in our industry. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but especially with like CrossFit gyms that started off with big group classes, it's really interesting that the movement is kind of coming full circle now and turning more to small group personal training, which is how it started, right? That was Greg's model. And it's backed by data, so I'm going to come back to that, okay? I'm glad you guys actually said retention, because most people that come to this, it's just like leads, how do I get more leads? And so like what I did learn over time, and the two brains of your business are like, you have to be the best, you have to get people results, but you also have to be able to talk about yourself and market and get new people in, because if you can't market, you can't save them. And then the third lesson I had to learn was sales. I was the worst salesperson in the world. Somebody would come into my gym and I would show them around, and I'd sit them down and I'd open a binder and I would have like the 3 energy pathways in this binder, and like, well, this is what your ATP energy system does. Like, who cares, right? And I'd have them there for an hour, and I would never say, do you want to sign up, or how do you want to pay? So what I had to learn over time is that like the first act of coaching that you do with anybody is coaching them to sign up. And once I figured that out, we started getting a really high conversion rate. So I can answer questions about that too. And the fourth thing is that like, just like your clients are coming in to be coached because fitness is overwhelming to them, there's a lot of answers out there and they've tried stuff before. Most business owners also need coaching, and that's what we're here for. Business owners listen to podcasts, they're working their tail off, you know, they're reading stuff. I've got more information for you here. I've got books I can just give you. But the reality is they don't know where to start or what their next best step is, and that's why they come and talk to us at 2 That's really what we're all here for, is coaching. But my goal is to help gyms make more money, because I got into fitness the same reason that you guys did. I wanted to probably change lives, right? Like, did anybody here sign up for fitness because they thought it was going to be a super lucrative career? Anybody start a gym to make money? No, nobody does, right? But what's the reason, and the only reason, that people sell their gym, close their gym, get out of fitness? It's money. Like, nobody gets into this for money, and everybody gets out of it because of money. If you're talking to somebody in a Facebook group or online, and you're like, oh, I heard you shut your gym down. Why'd you do that? Oh, well, I got really passionate about making hamburgers, or like, I found my calling and it's selling real estate. Like, that's what they're gonna say. But the reason is always money. And when gyms fail, the gym owner will say, oh, it's because my coach has left and they opened up this gym downtown, or a new gym opened up down the block, right? But all these are money problems. Money solves all these problems. And so what I realized is that if I can help you make more money, you will be around longer, serve more people, and actually turn the tide on this health crisis that we're having. Now, I'm from Canada, so our health crisis is bad, not as bad as the States, but how is it here? Are people getting healthier or sicker? Sicker, yeah, thanks, Gare. Yeah. Count on the voice at the back to come through for me every time, buddy. It's amazing, like, for the first time in human history, our species is actually getting worse. 2,000 generations ago, we kicked off this whole process of every generation of humans getting a little bit healthier, living a little bit longer, creating a little bit of wealth, passing a little bit on to the next generation, setting the next generation up for success. And for the first time, my generation is going to live a shorter lifespan than our parents did. That's bananas. We've created all this wealth, all this knowledge for ourselves, and what are we doing with it? Nothing. We're watching Netflix, right? We're getting sicker. Our lives are getting longer, but worse. Like the last 10 years of our parents' lifespan is probably going to be the worst 10 years of their lifespan. Anybody believe that? Yeah. So who's going to change that? It's just us. It's just the coaches. The healthcare system's not going to do it. I don't know about the UK government, but the Canadian government is sure as hell not going to fix the healthcare problem, right? Thanks, Ariana. She's Canadian. It's up to us. And if we go into the fitness business, coach for 2 years, own a gym for 3 years, and then say goodbye, that's not enough to turn the tide. But that's what's happening. Every year there's 10,000 new gyms that join this ecosystem, the Rogue ecosystem, the CrossFit ecosystem, and 9,000 fail every year. That's our mission, to stop it. So what we're going to do today, I'm going to talk a little bit about retention. I'm going to talk about small group personal training and downsizing. But if you guys have questions about business, like, don't be shy, just ask. We're here to give free information. Gary's got a stack of one of my more popular books, the Gym Owner's Handbook. And then we're going to be at the booth for the rest of today and tomorrow too. So if you've got a question, I really encourage you to ask it here, because everybody probably has the same one. But if you want to talk to us privately, just come over, okay? So the first thing we're going to talk about is retention, because this gives me a great opportunity to talk about Beyond the Whiteboard. So there are only about 5 things that really matter when it comes to retention. Early on, when I found my first mentor in 2009, the first question I had for him was, how do I get my clients to sign contracts? Because I figured if everybody signed a contract, that nobody could ever leave, and all of my retention problems would be solved. Does anybody have contracts here? Good for you, man. Good. How do you find enforcing them? Right. Okay, good. That's good. In most places in the world, it's very hard to enforce a fitness contract. In fact, if you're in the States right now, and you want to have any kind of contract longer than a month in your gym, you have to take out a $100,000 bond. So you have to put $100,000 into an account that you can't touch before you let anybody sign a contract in your gym. The bigger problem with most gyms though, especially in the micro gym space, is that we're not willing to enforce the contract. So for me, when I first talked to a mentor in 2008, I said, okay, Dennis, I'm gonna put everybody on these contracts. And he's like, okay, pretend that I sign a contract for a year, and 3 months in I say, I'm quitting. Are you gonna take me to court? And I was like, well, no. And he's like, okay, so you're making a rule that you can't enforce. I'm like, well, but you wouldn't break the contract because you signed it. And he's like, no, I would break it, you know? So the problem with contracts in most of our gyms is that we're not willing to enforce them, and we wind up penalizing the people who follow the rules and letting the people who break the rules get out. You're different, you're better. That's awesome. Good. What we found though, and what he said to me was a game changer for me, it was, do you want to spend your life helping people, or do you want to spend your life taking people to court? And you know, for me that was easy, but he's like, you got to get as good at retention as you would be with contracts. So what we found over the years of studying this, and this is all I've been studying for the last 15 years, is there's really 5 pillars to keeping people longer. This wasn't supposed to be part of the talk today, but I want to share them with you. Because there's a lot of stuff out there about like, well, if I give people badges, if I put their name on the wall, if I give them a certain t-shirt, that will help. I'll tell you guys exactly what will help, okay? And the awesomest part is that Beyond the Whiteboard has an amazing new tool for this that's so helpful. So the first thing that helps is people have to be onboarded properly. If somebody comes into your gym, they do a free trial and they sign up, their average lifespan, do you guys want to guess what it is? Like how long they stay? What did you say? A month? Yeah, close. Anybody else got a different guess than a month? 90 days? Yep. It's 90 days, yeah. It's like 78 days actually. So what that means is that they're in there for 2 months. I'll give this a good shot, right? But every single day they come to your gym, they go home and their spouse is saying like, that's the most expensive gym membership I ever heard of. How come you're getting up at 5 a.m.? How come I gotta walk the dog at night? How come you're going there on the weekend? How come I'm the one that's gotta feed the kids? Every day for 78 days until finally they're like, I'm done. Like, this is enough, I'm gone. And maybe they've made a friend, but probably they haven't. Maybe they're seeing some results, but 78 days is a pretty tight window to see results, right? So they're gone. So the first thing is you need an on-ramp program. You need a one-on-one introduction to teach the basic movements and create a bond with at least one other person in your gym. When you do that, if that's the only change you make, you take people from 78 days to 8 months. Just that one action, okay? Now 8 months is a different story, because if you can keep people for 8 months, more than 70% will stay for a year. And if you can keep them for a year, 56% will stay for 2 years. And in 2 years, you can change their life. If they stay at your gym for 2 years and then quit, they're not quitting fitness. They're just quitting your gym. They're probably gonna keep running, they're gonna go work out somewhere else, but you can take credit for changing their lives. So that's the first thing, is you need an on-ramp program. The second thing that you need is what we call a prescriptive model. So every 3 to 6 months, you need to sit down with them, review their progress, look at their scores on Beyond the Whiteboard, put them on an in-body, measure their biceps, whatever you want to do, measure their deadlift, and say, are you completely satisfied with your results? What's going on in their head is, am I getting the result that I signed up for? Okay, I signed up here to drop 3 pant sizes. Now I can deadlift 200, but my pants still don't fit. I had this woman, Tori, this was a heartbreaking conversation. So she comes in, she's like, I gotta lose weight. She was a weather personality on the local news, Tori Cook. And she's like, I gotta drop some weight, my clothes don't fit. She works out with me for about 6 months. She's super duper strong. She, in my mind, uncovered this hidden athlete that she never knew was within her. I was so proud of her. She ran her first 5K. And one day she comes in crying and says, I'm quitting. And I said, Tori, what are you talking about? You're this animal now, you love it. You're wearing all my gym stuff, And she's like, my husband said my arms are bigger than his now. Can you imagine? It's still, I saw some of you, yeah. It still strikes right through the heartstrings, right? And it's like, shit, I don't blame you. So the key is that we need to meet with people every 3 to 6 months. We need to measure them, make sure they're getting the results that they signed up to get, and then say, are you completely happy with your progress? And if they say, yes, I'm thrilled, fantastic. That's when we ask for a referral. If they say, pretty good, then we say, how can we speed it up? And we give them a new prescription. If they say no, great, because they're telling us, no, I'm not happy, before they tell us, no, I quit, we're breaking up. Okay, so that's the second thing, an on-ramp and a prescriptive model. The third thing is that you need an ascension system. So martial arts, anybody do martial arts here, like jiu-jitsu or anything? Yeah, cool, man. Of course you do, yeah, right on. The thing that martial arts has, now martial arts schools are even worse than gyms, right? They are poorly run. It's a club. And the thing that they have going for them that we don't have is an amazing built-in retention system, an ascension tool called belts. You guys know what belts are in martial arts, right? You start off and you're a white belt and then you're a yellow belt, etc. That's what keeps people around. And I'm not saying you got to build a big belt system, but what you have to do is show people first what is the next step for them, the next small step, and what's the last step that they completed. Okay? So this is where Beyond the Whiteboard really comes in with this kind of stuff too. Anybody use Strava here? Yeah, of course you do, yeah. Okay, you can just leave your hand up. That's cool, yeah. So Strava is the biggest app in the world for endurance athletes, runners, cyclists, swimmers. And every year they give you this end of year report. Chris, here's all the segments you won this year. Not one in my case. Here's all the segments you did this year. Here's how many miles you rode, here's how many days you were on the bike, etc. Beyond the Whiteboard does that for fitness. So it's like, here's all the PRs you set, here's how many classes you came to, here's your streak. It's an amazing retention tool. Okay? I'm not saying that because Mo is sitting right there. This is actually super addictive. And when I get a report at the end of the year from Strava, I look forward to it. But they do it monthly in your gym. So that's a massive retention tool. The fourth thing that people have to have is what we call a trifecta. They have to have a personal connection to 2 other people in the gym. One can be you or their primary coach, but they have to form a personal relationship with one other person in your gym. Sounds obvious, right? But there's a lot of people who just come to classes and they meet, all 5 other people in their class or 6 people, but they don't form a personal relationship with any one of them. So you have to go out of your way to build that. And the last thing, this is the one that surprises everybody. If you want to keep people around for a long time, they have to refer somebody else. Referrals are actually a big retention tool. And if you think about it, have a seat, man. Yeah, thanks for bringing me that coffee. If you think about it, when was the last time you took a spouse or a friend to a restaurant, right? Or somewhere else that they'd never been before. And because it's you recommending it to them, you're totally bought in on making sure they have the best experience ever, right? So you take your girlfriend to the steakhouse, right? and you're like, oh, you gotta try the prime rib. Oh, get it medium well. Oh, you gotta try this salad. You gotta try this dessert. Have you tried the espresso? Like, you're selling them the whole time they're there with you because you're invested in them liking it. Because if they don't like it, they're gonna think less of you, right? So when a client makes a referral to your gym, you will actually keep that client almost 6 months longer. So it's super duper important to be active about asking for referrals instead of just hoping that they happen, okay? This was the big mistake that I made, was if I just do a really great job, everybody's gonna refer their friends. And I heard that from my ego, I heard that from Greg Glassman, I heard that from everybody out there, and it's not fucking true. People will just not automatically refer their friends. You have to ask them. Is this a PG event? Rob, I'm good. Right? I'll keep it to one, just in case. You have to actually ask them for referrals. And so when you set up a goal review and you meet with them every 3 months to 6 months and you measure them and you say, are you perfectly happy? Then you say, what about your husband? What about your wife? You know, do you think your coworkers could be helped if I went in and did a talk on beating stress in the workplace or whatever? You have to be active about referrals. So those are the 5 things that actually matter. You know, be on the whiteboard, they can help, especially with the ascension model and like grading people and seeing progress and rewarding progress. The rest of it is up to you. And when you're a gym owner, I know you're super duper busy, you're cleaning, you're doing the programming, you're coaching the classes and all that other stuff. But this is actually the job of the owner. The biggest mistake that gym owners make is they think that if I'm the best coach, I will have the best business. That is not true. If you want to have the best business, you have to be the best owner. And that means doing this stuff. It means doing a sales consultation. It means doing the marketing. It means doing this retention work. It means asking for referrals. Cool? Good. Now guys, does anybody have questions about retention or marketing? Yeah.
Yeah, on that referral thing.
Yeah.
So for example, right now in our gym, we're
Yeah.
trying to implement that. But as you said, if we had a perfect client journey,
Yeah.
we had that like 3 months, 6 months that. But right now we got 7-year-old members, 5-year-old members.
Yeah.
So how do you start that process
Sure.
with current members? You know?
How do you start the process with current members? Perfect. So started with new members first, which you probably have already done. So new member comes in, they sign up, you say, we're gonna meet again in 3 months, measure your progress, done, right? You put them on that journey. If you've got current members, the first thing you do is you get the easy ones into a goal review. So you send them a DM one-on-one, okay? Like, hey, Gary, dude, it's November 1st, time for your goal review. Let's measure your progress, okay? 10% of your members right away will just be like, okay, coach says time to measure my progress, let's go. After that, what you do is you probably bring them into a group setting. So you say, okay, it's the end of the year. Everybody here is doing amazing things. We've got your data. Here it is. Okay, so you send them their data, maybe 2 or 3 highlights. Hey, in the last year, Andrew, you deadlifted 500 for the first time. You ran your first 10K. We're so proud of you. Can you click this link and come in and chat with me for 10 minutes? And you might have to do it on Zoom for them. Let's talk about your progress and where you want to go in 2026, okay? And that'll take care of about probably 50 or 60% of your members. The other 40% will be like, why would I do this? I've never done this before. And you want to grab them at class. So you want to actually have like a goal review sheet that you take with you. And you're in class and you're like, what's your name? Jan? Jan, amazing class today, man. I've been noticing a lot of progress. I'd like to measure your progress and talk to you about what your next steps are going to be. Do you have 10 minutes? That's it. And of course, Jan is like, no, I got to get back to work. Cool, how about Monday? And so you do it less formally the first time, and then you book their appointment for the next one. But once you've got everybody on this, like, it's such a difference to retention. It's profound. If you've got 150 members and they're only paying $150 a month, if you can keep each one of those members for 2 more months than normal, you'll take home $40,000 more a year. That's how the math works out. Like, that's how profound this is. And if you're keeping every one of those members for 2 months longer, it works out to about 3 fewer members per month that you have to attract and market it. So if you think about like how hard you got to work to get 3 new members in a month, you don't have to do that work if your retention is better. Does that make sense? Retention is just sales over time, and if you're good at selling, come back tomorrow, you don't have to be as good at marketing. Cool? Other questions about retention? I want to talk about the move to the small group model a little bit. What's your name? Shelly? Shannon, thank you. So what we're seeing, guys, and this is really, really common question. I go around and give talks just on this. So it's not my job to tell you, like, I had this great idea and then sell you on the idea. My job in our industry is to collect all the data from all the gyms and notice what's happening and report it to you guys. So every year we do this massive data collection, 15,000 gyms, and we publish it for free. If you go to twobrainbusiness.com/data, you can just have it. We started this because in 2018, I was at a meeting with CrossFit HQ, and the CEO at the time, Jeff Kane, says, what's the number one thing that we can do to help affiliates? And I said, ask them how many members they have, and how much money they're making, and how long they keep members, and how much space they have, and then just like share that with everybody. You don't have to tell them how to run their business, just share the data. And Bruce, who was the COO at the time, he says, that's a great idea. We're never going to do it. So we just decided to start doing that. And since 2018, every year we've published this data set. What's really obvious now is that small group training is taking over. And it's not just because it's the most popular, but because it's the most sustainable. There's some irony to this. The irony is that that's how Greg Glassman started CrossFit. Are you guys all CrossFit gyms or no? Put your hand up if you're not a CrossFit gym. Okay. So if you go way back to like 2001, when did you find CrossFit? 2012. Okay. Right in the heyday, right? Like right at the peak. If you go way back and you look at the CrossFit message boards, you'll see a lot of conversation about running groups. But what Greg was actually doing in his little tiny facility was running groups of 4 to 5 people, not 12, not 30. At the time on the CrossFit message boards, it really seemed like there were groups of 30 people running around. But that idea didn't come until 2006. And there was a talk just like this. You know, this guy, John Birch, was telling people, you gotta have these big groups like karate. But nobody was actually doing that effectively. That's where the idea germinated in the CrossFit community, that you had to have big groups. But there are very, very, very few successful big group CrossFit gyms in the world. The really successful ones either have big groups and personal training, or more and more often now, they're small group. So if you look at like the most successful CrossFit gyms in Sweden, for example, you know, Oscar and Kalle, their third gym is a small group personal training gym. And these guys are on seminar staff. The benefits of small group is that, number one, people are paying close to personal training rates, like maybe 10% less. You've got 4 to 6 people in a group. In some gyms, they're all doing the same workout. That's okay. In my gym, they each have their own workout plan. The retention is almost as good as personal training, but you can do it in like, I don't know, 2,000 square feet. How many? 200 square meters is a lot for a small group personal training gym, right? So it's a more profitable model, and a lot of gyms are going that way. But I don't want to talk about that for an hour. So if you guys have a specific question about small group personal training, like, I'm more than happy to answer. Do you have a specific question, Shannon? No? You're just doing it, right? You've made that move. What's that? Yep. 6 to 8 people in a class, that's great. The crazy thing is, if you look at the data, the gyms like me who opened up and we thought we were gonna have 15 people in a class, they only get 4 to 6 people in a class anyway, right? Do you guys have classes where you've got like 4 people in the class? And you're still paying the coach, right? So if you calculate, like, what am I making for this class? Quite often, you're actually losing money on that class. It's bananas. But you still keep that class because you don't want to lose those members, and maybe someday I'll fill it up. And you get in this whole cycle where some of your classes make money, some of them lose money, some of them kind of break even. You're there 24 hours a day. You got to have 6 different coaches with 12 different certifications. And so a lot of gyms are just going toward small group or semi-private. And the only difference is, in a small group setting, everybody does the same workout. In semi-private, everybody has their own program, and the coach just kind of circulates. Cool? All right. So guys, I've got 4 minutes, but I'll stay as long as you guys want. Who has other questions about running a business that we can answer? Nothing specific, Andrew? That's cool. That's all right. So Gary is going to be at our booth right around the corner over there, right across from the big Rogue store. He's going to be here all weekend. I've got copies of one of my books here. You can just grab a copy from him while you're here. Maybe we'll just hand them out while we're here, right, Gary? Yeah. And my other books are all on Amazon and stuff. But if you've got a specific question that you don't want to ask in front of a group, just come on over to the booth and we'll hang out. Okay, I'm here for today. Is that cool? Donnie, did you have a specific question? Anybody have a specific question they want to chat about before we go? No? Okay, that's cool. You guys are shy in public. Yeah, thank you. That's a great shirt, by the way. I love it. Are you from Sweden? Are you from Sweden? Oh. Brazil! Could you pick a further event to attend? Yep. Okay, yeah. Yeah, perfect. Okay, that's such a great question. So his question is, he has different packages. So there's a 2 times a week package, a 3 times a week package, and like do you have a 4 times a week package or an unlimited? Yeah. How many people have a setup like that? Do you offer like twice a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week? Okay. How do you get people to go from twice a week to 3 times? The first thing is like you only want to sell 3 options. So it sounds like you're doing that already. Any more than 3 options paralyzes people. They'll need to go home and think about it. So what you want to do is you want to have like a binder. When people come into your gym, you've got what we call a sales binder. And it's like, you start with what is your goal, you measure their starting point, and then you say, okay, based on your goal, I recommend that you come 4 times a week. Okay, so if you really want to hit your goal, you need to be here 4 times a week, and you need to follow whatever diet you like, okay? Zone diet. Does that sound good to you? And let them say yes. And then you say, okay, would you prefer to do those 4 workouts in a small group setting or one-on-one with me? And at that point, they'll probably start asking about price, right? So you say, okay, well, the price to come 4 times a week to our group is $205 a month or whatever it is. That's the industry average. That's why I'm saying 205. $205 a month. Sound good? Well, that's a little bit high for me. Here's what we're going to do. If I were in your shoes, what I would want to do is come maybe 3 times a week. It's a little bit, the investment is a little bit less. You never say the word expensive or cost or price, you say investment. The investment is a little bit less. And then on your 4th day a week, you're going to go walking for 4 kilometers. How does that sound? Okay? Well, it sounds pretty good. Great. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to start on that plan. And in 3 months, we're going to meet up again, and we're going to measure your progress, and we'll talk about the plan from there at that time, okay? So you don't want to talk them out of their idea, but what you want to do is set them up to expect that the plan might change over time. And so when they come back for their goal review, you measure their progress, you say, are you completely happy with your progress? If they say yes, great, keep doing what we're doing. If they say, I wish I could lose this weight a little bit faster, then you say, if I were in your shoes, I would start coming 4 times a week, okay? The solution that we give them the first time we meet them, that's never a permanent solution. It's never the last solution, it's never the last program. The best program for any client is always the next program, okay? So we'll ramp them up over time. And then, eventually, what we did at my gym when we wanted to get rid of the people who are only coming twice a week, because they really weren't getting results. I don't know about you, but like, they were coming to my gym twice a week, and if they were also running or also swimming or also going to the gym, that would have been fine with me, but they weren't. That was all they were doing. And I just said to them, like, look, my mission is to change your life with fitness. I can't do that twice a week. We're not going to offer this anymore. But my gym was already very successful at that point, so I was comfortable doing that, For you guys, I would just start with goal reviews. Is that helpful? Good, all right. Thanks for coming all the way from Brazil. That's amazing, wow. Any other questions, guys? Okay, here's what we're gonna do. grab a book from Gary or Ariana. If there's not enough, just come over to the booth, have a private conversation if you want to. That's totally cool, or just grab a book or whatever. Cool? Thanks for coming today, guys. I started talking when there was just 2 of us here, so I'm grateful that there was more.